Welcome to Table for One. I'm the narrator, and in this video, we're going to talk about Voidfall. Today, we're going to answer questions about the Fallen House cards. Let's get rolling. So this video wasn't necessarily by request, but I got some questions about fallen houses in the comments of another video, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to just talk about these real quick. So some eagle-eyed viewers noticed that in some of my playthrough videos, I've got the fallen house card just sitting on an empty sector. Wow, that's really zoomed in, huh? I've got the fallen house card just sitting on an empty sector, and there's no population, and I didn't put any sector defense tokens on the installation slots for that sector, and that is on purpose, and that is the correct way to do it. So that's for a couple reasons. All the Fallen House cards have two sector defense on them, at least at this time. I know there's an announced expansion, and I don't know what's going to be in there, so that could change in the future, but at least in the base game, the 14 original houses all have two sector defense, but you don't put the sector defense tokens out for a couple reasons. One, because that could contribute to running out of tokens during the game, especially in a larger game. If you've got a 4-player game with 4 fallen houses, that's 8 tokens, 8 installation tokens out of the game right off the bat. So that can contribute to running out. And then 2, the technology combat replicators allows you to retain any installations in a sector that you take over. So if if your opponent's got a sector with 2 sector defense and you go in there and you win the combat, you can keep those instead of removing them like you normally do at the end of combat. But there's 2 types of sectors that does not apply to. One of them is rifts if you're playing co-op mode. The rift has a pre-printed sector defense, and when you close a rift, you flip the tile over to make it a standard sector, and you do not get to keep that pre-printed sector defense. That goes away. And then the other sector type is a fallen house sector. So if you go into a fallen house sector and you're victorious, you win the combat against the 2 sector defense, which just means that you survive the approach step, because then they have no initiative at that point. Then you've won, the Fallen House card goes away, and there's no sector defense tokens to retain. You don't get to keep those. And then on the population piece, again, to date, the houses will have 1 to 3 population on the Fallen House. So it looks like the 1s are Cradmore, Cheveus, and Marquelos. Those are the 1s. The 3s are Cortazar, Thegwin, Novaris, Nervo, and Dunlork. And then all the rest are 2s. So that would be Astorin, Valnus, Yarvek, Fenrax, Zenor, and Belatan. Those are all 2s. You don't want to rely on the card in this case. Go ahead and place a variable population die on the sector during setup using the population number shown on the card. And maybe more importantly, place a corruption marker as well. Place the corruption and the die during setup. The reason is that for solo and co-op, during the endgame scoring, the Voidborn gain 3 influence for each Fallen House card still on the map, and then they additionally gain 2 influence for each corruption marker in play. You don't want to miscalculate by having too few corruption markers out. Now, as a side note, the Fallen House sector is not a Voidborn sector, so they would not score for the population in a Fallen House sector, but I have more info on endgame scoring in another video. I'll put a link in the description. Now, since we're here, let's say you invade the Fallen House sector and you successfully win the combat. Then you gain one of the 2 basic techs, assuming you have a tech slot for it, and you don't have both of those techs already, and at least 1 copy of one of those techs is still available. And remember, the first time you invade a Fallen House, the card, you flip it upside down and put it next to your house mat, you can hold a 6th tech. So if your 5 slots are full, this gives you a 6th. You cannot have more than 6 no matter how many Fallen Houses you invade. So you take a basic tech, not an improved tech, just a basic of one of those 2 types. And this is a good reminder, too. When you set up the game, don't forget, if there's fallen houses on the map, those 2 techs need to be in the tech tableau. That's going to be one of the houses that make up the tech tableau. After that, you gain the immediate bonus that's printed here on the card. So on this Astrotron one, it would be you can place an installation of any type on this sector. That's what the equal sign in the hexagon means. If we look at some others, For Valinus, you place a reclaim token on this sector, and then you've already won the combat, so you get whatever the reward is of that reclaim token. I guess we'll go through all of them. For Yarmvek, you gain a bounty token and or place a shipyard on this sector. For Fenrax, add a reclaim token to this sector. For Xenor, you can pay 1 science to advance your lowest civilization track. That's just one time. You can't pay like 10 science and advance a track all the way. One time, you have that ability. For Belatan, you can add a Banker's Guild to that sector. For, what else we got? Cradmore, you can remove 1 corruption from anywhere in the game that's under your control. So, the house mat, decontamination chambers, or one of your sectors. And or you can upgrade 1 glory token. For Cheveus, you can remove 1 corruption, same as Cradmore. And or you can add a scientist guild to that sector. For Marquelos, you just gain 2 food and 2 credits. For Cortazar, you can deploy 1 fleet power to that sector. For Thegwin, you can spend 1 material to add a farmer's guild to that sector. Again, just like Xenor, you can only do that 1 time. For Novaris, you can deploy 1 fleet power to that sector. For Nervo, you can add 1 miner's guild to that sector. And for Dunlork, you can add 1 engineer's guild to that sector. So those are the 14 houses in the game and what the bonuses are. So there you go. If you have any other questions about Fallen Houses or anything else about Voidfall, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to make a video to address it. Otherwise, as always, if you're still here, this is where I beg you to please subscribe, like, share the video, and then tell your friends to do the same. So this has been Table for One, and I will see you next time.